ALG really saved me. I put all of my success on joining this group. People constantly checking in saved me.
I made so many friends with people that I've never met, but I feel incredibly close to, and I consider them family.
It really is a family. It is a place where you can just be yourself, and there is no judgment. There is no shame. You are so welcome there.
Nobody has to be in this alone. Everybody is either going through or has gone through the same thing at one point.
Let's do this.
Welcome back to another episode of the ALG podcast. If you're listening to this on the day of drop, then happy Friday to you. As always, I am John Arpino, otherwise known as Nope, I'm not Fit _, D-Rock. Nope. Nope. That's definitely not me.
What was that?
Did you ever see someone have Alzheimer's in a single?
Actually,
what was that?
This has nothing to do with my personal political affiliations, but it goes off of what just happened with Trump last night. From Trump being on stage last night, you fired.
Yeah. What was that? All right. Well, anyway, thanks for listening to the show. I'm gonna go play in traffic now. Anyway, I'm John Arpino, otherwise known as JR's Journey on Instagram. I'm joined alongside my partner in crime, David Roden, otherwise known as Fit _ D-Rock. And welcome back to the show, Levi Garrett. Levi, say your IG handle because I'll remember it by the third episode.
It is Fluffy the Fit 85.
Okay, see, I was going to say 86, so I'm right there. I basically have it remembered. So anyway, I'm Levi Garrett.
I know we're twins.
Yeah, and so anyway, we have a really great topic for y'all if you're still listening after that fucking mistake. And today's topic is, Levi, you came up with the topic, so why don't you say what it is?
So what we were going to talk about is in the process of going through this fitness journey, a lot of times you're going to have people that, don't really rock with what you're doing, and they can become really toxic towards your journey. So sometimes you got to change the people that you're around. So it's like cutting people off, and I hate to say it, but a lot of times you really do have to cut a lot of people out that are going to give you some negative bullshit that's around your life, and you don't really need that when you're on the process of trying to better yourself. So it's about knowing when and how to really cut people off and to really weed out the toxic people that are really going to affect your journey.
Absolutely, because here's the thing. Levi said it before, people are not always going to see eye to eye with what you're doing. You know what I mean? People in your immediate friend group, in your family, they're not always going to be on the same level with you when you're trying to make extreme change within your life. And that's okay. What it's not okay is when it becomes a repetitive issue, like when it starts interfering with your journey or it starts interfering with your mental health and you start second guessing yourself, why am I doing this? Because people are telling me that I'm just going to fail, or people are telling me, oh, I liked you when you were fat. It's going to happen. It really is. It's going to happen. And the real question is, when do you draw the line? And once you draw the line, how do you cut ties? What is the best way to cut ties? Do you just ghost them? Do you sit them down and try to have a conversation with them? In your, with you, David, had this happened to you before?
Oh, I mean, yeah, 100%. This is always a really hard conversation because I'm under the first auspice of there's a lot of people that they talk about the cutting ties and having this conversation, and it's that means oh fuck it, I'm burning a bridge, and it's I'm the first one to say, hey, there's a difference between questioning how much time you spend with someone,
right,
and saying cutting ties means burning a bridge, saying fuck you, I'm done with you,
never
that's
talking
over.
Again, yeah.
Yeah, I'm and that's always a big thing for me. It's it's a balance because there's no questions over the years I've had hard conversations, either directly or indirectly with myself, where I'm like, all right, this person just really doesn't want to accept the fact of what I'm doing, and so I need to pivot. But all at the same time, I've heard plenty of people that, well, they don't support me, so fuck them. I'm like, there's a difference between someone not being your cheerleader and not being a supporter. Like those are two different things. Like if someone's directly trying to fuck up your nutrition plan, get you off your plan, that's one thing. Someone who just isn't in your corner, hollering and hooraying all the time,
right,
that doesn't mean they're against you. And so I always kind of push back, because there's a lot of people that if someone doesn't support them exactly how they want to be supported, they consider that to be like, well, they're not on my side, man. And it's like, be careful here. But no, there's definitely that happy balance of, I mean, I'll never forget, I had a good friend of mine who literally said to me, I liked you better when you were fat. And you're just like, dead ass. And you're like, well, I like to be alive. Yeah. Thank you. But okay, hey, if that's what you want to do, and we have to kind of deconnect and kind of move our own separate ways, that's fine. I get it. So yeah, there's definitely been those conversations. It's a hard one because a lot of people, as we kind of have this conversation, I think we can all agree it comes from people's own insecurities.
Absolutely. At the end of the day, that's what they're speaking out from. It has to do with what they're doing and what they're not doing. And you know, some people will feel like a jealousy kind of, you know, and also with my personal experience in this matter, you know, for me, when I was making great change and like change was occurring, I had to take a giant step back and look at my group of friends individually and kind of like reason with myself kind of why I'm friends with these people. And I've said this on this podcast before, like I had a whole group of friends that, you know, once I realized, like once I was losing weight, you know, once I had gastric sleeve and whatever, I was going through the motions and everything, I realized like 5 of my friends, I was only friends with because we ate together. You know what I mean? Like we'd hit each other up 8 o'clock at night. Yo, you want to go get food? We'll hang out. We'll smoke, like whatever. Like this is what we're going to do. And that was the basis of our friendship. You took eating off the table because John's now eating on a plan or whatever the case may be. Then we would look at each other and be like, well, what do you want to do? Like, you guys want to go do something? You guys want to go bowl? You want to go play mini golf? You want to whatever. And then realizing, hey, we actually don't have anything in common other than the fact that we used to like to eat together. And then you got to figure out, well, why is that, you know? And it's a learning curve. It definitely is.
100%. And that's always been a big one with me. I think we've had this conversation. Mine was actually video games more than food. And I created this nasty connection to like, because at my heaviest weight, I played a fuck ton of video games.
Right.
And there was a piece of me that looked back at that and resented it as a big reason why I was overweight, because obviously you're just blindly eating. Right. You're sitting a lot. And so I started going to the gym a lot, which then started making me question every friend I had that played a lot of video games, because I was like, what do they give a shit and all this kind of stuff? And that, again, I went too far personally. Like there's been a solid 4 or 5 years I barely played any video games at all, because I was just like, no, that's old David. And like, there's a happy medium. You don't have to cut it out completely. You shouldn't play 4 or 5 hours a day, but playing from time to time, not a big deal. But even me, I massively pendulumed away from anyone who played video games, just because I was like, no, that's not what I do anymore. And so that's what I was interested in. When Levi, I mean, obviously, your current most transformation is, I was about to call you old at like 36?
37. I am
37
years of age. I mean, I am old. I'm close to 40, so like, I'll take, like, dude, like, everything's fucking cracking. But I think for me, like, within my journey is that as you get older, naturally, your circle shrinks anyway.
Right.
You know, so a lot of the time, like, you really see who's really rocking with you and who's really not. A lot of it, for me, with my whole process was that I heard that I liked you when you was fat a lot. And I heard that from, like, family members, friends, and stuff like that. Because I was a funny fat guy. And now I'm in a different realm, you know what I mean? So it was always, like, how people viewed me was just I had to fit into this certain hole that I was allowed to be in, right?
Mhm.
So now that I look a certain type of way, even though I'm the same person, like I'm uncovering certain process of myself, and things that I like, certain things that I don't like. I'm refining who I am and redefining who I am. So some people don't get along with that. Some people don't like the fact that you can really fit into many different holes and to be a different type of person. But just because of your weight's different, like your confidence is better, like how you feel about yourself is better, how you carry yourself is a little bit better. I don't feel I need to be the funny fat guy. I don't feel I need to make you laugh for you to like me. I'm me just being me is good enough. And you sometimes find that process on your journey can rub people the wrong way. Like I know for me, a lot of insecurities was the biggest thing, right? Because you're a mirror, you're a reflection. So when people see how you're acting, how you carry yourself, they see what they're not doing within themselves and they hold it against you. And a lot of the time they're not mad at you, they're mad at themselves. Like this dude do this, so, but I can't. So I'm just gonna talk about him and try to put him down a little bit, you know?
Right.
And that's where it comes down to where that's a little bit toxic, you know? Like there's people that when I was losing my fair share of weight, I didn't talk to them the whole time. I didn't talk to him. I didn't have a conversation with him. And it was mainly because of the simple fact, it's very similar to John. Like, all we did was eat and drink.
Mm-hmm.
All we did was eat, drink, and smoke. And I'm like, what's that going to do for me? You know,
Right.
I'm at a point now with my life and my maturity is like, that's boring to me. Two, I have to really take care of myself and having a heart attack and going through the things. Like, we're all extremists, right? Within this weight loss. So either we're extremely overweight or we got extremely lean, and we're trying to find that balance. And sometimes what people don't like is the fact that for me to find balance, you don't fit in with that, you know? Like you make me go too much this way and I'm trying to find my way this way and trying to find a happy median. And people don't like that. So they're always gonna say something, oh, you changed, or you're not the same person you were, or you're I like you better when you were fat, or I like you better when you made it about me and not about yourself. Well, this life ain't about you, you know.
Yeah.
And my mom says it to me all the time. Like, you come in this world by yourself, you go out of this world by yourself. So how you fit between the dashes, that's on you. And if people rock with you, they rock with you. If they don't, they don't. You know.
Absolutely.
A good phrase: 100 pennies or 4 quarters. What would you rather have? They each add up to $1. You know, so sometimes like you just see how people are, and their true selves come out when they see the reflection of what they don't like.
Absolutely.
Yeah. And a big thing for me going off the 100 pennies, 4 quarters is we're talking about cutting ties, but I think I will warn people that just like how you say you have an overeating habit, like say you binge eat at night. How do you stop binge eating? You don't just stop it. You incorporate new, healthier lifestyles that help fill the void,
Right.
so you can break a bad habit. You don't break bad habits, you rebuild better ones. And so same thing with this. Be careful if you're in this position where like you have friends, you have family that are not in your best interest, and you do have to question how much time, how much effort you're putting into that relationship. Be careful not trying to fill the void with something better in its place, and you get lonely real quick.
Yeah.
Because that's not good either. And there's a lot of people out there that are like, well, fuck it, I might as well be alone. And like, I understand being alone's better than being in massively toxic relationships, but I'd also challenge you going, that's what the ALG community is about. That's what all this stuff is about. There's a lot more people out there than you think that could help create more value in your life. And so make sure if you're in this conversation of questioning relationships, questioning friendships, questioning all this kind of stuff to create more value in your life, you're not only thinking about cutting people out, but you're asking where there are good environments to incorporate better people into my circle, so you don't get caught in like you burning a bunch of bridges. Now you're just fucking
Now
alone.
you're alone, right? Right. Well, I think Levi said it before, and you know, just to grow on it, like your circle is going to change naturally. You know, as you're changing your life, you're naturally going to attract people that are on the same wavelength as you. It just happens. Like, there's no explaining it. And slowly but surely, sometimes those problems kind of work themselves out because you are going to be spending more time with the people that think like-minded to you. It's just naturally going to occur, you know? But I would like to circle back and, like, try to, you know, like, how would you go about having a conversation? I'm asking both of you. How would you go about having the conversation with the person that you feel either you need to kind of pull yourself back from a little bit, or you need to sever all ties with because they're just nasty? You know what I mean? Like, sometimes it just is what it is. Let's call a spade a spade. Again, because we said before, it comes out of jealousy. So if they're speaking from a jealous place, 9 times out of 10, they're probably speaking nasty toward you, toward what you're doing. So how do you conduct that conversation with them?
I'm very blunt.
Levi.
I'm extremely blunt.
Yeah.
I'm extremely blunt. So, like,
Right.
I'm that person where it's like, I'll tell them, like, look, I need to fall back for a little bit. I'm just, and I'll say, like, look, I'm not in the headspace to rock with you for right now. I just need to fall back for a little bit. That's if I do that. Say, you know what? Maybe once I'm all set within my place, I can reconnect with you. If I don't feel I'm going to fuck with you, then I'll be the first one to say, look, I'm not going to fuck with you. I don't fuck with you. I don't need to fuck with you. We don't need to talk about it. We have nothing to talk about. Like, at the end of the day, like, we don't have to be doing the same thing, but we just have to be on the same wavelength of positivity. You know what I mean? Like, if I'm supporting you, like, let's say you got a business, right? If I'm not buying into your business, you know what I mean, and supporting your business and your brand, you know what I mean, I'm asking for a handout. That's not really being a friend. That's me looking for a hookup, right? But if all you're looking for from me is to be that funny fat dude that is going to make you laugh, but now that I'm on my fitness journey, you don't want to rock with me, you want the hand, I'm not going to rock with you on that. Like, dude, like, people come today, go tomorrow. Like, so I'm really blunt with the fact that I'll cut somebody off real quick, because at the end of the day, like, as you know, and maybe this is part of the upbringing that I have, you know, like, it's something that I was always raised with the idea that people can be in your life one day and go on the next. So if you don't appreciate them with the time that they're in your life, then, and they don't appreciate you for you being in their life, then, you know,
fuck them.
You don't fuck with me, I don't fuck with you. You know what I mean? It's like,
and I'm just a Midwestern boy going, guys, why can't we all hold hands and sing Kumbaya?
Yeah, exactly. And I'm on the East Coast saying, get the fuck, kick rocks with no socks on.
No, I think it's an interesting point, because, like, my angle on it all is like, control the controllables.
Always.
Like, that's always a big thing to me. Control the controllables. And one of the things that I think a lot of relationships fall apart on is lack of communication. And, like, you can't control what the person does. You can't control all that kind of stuff, but you can control how you communicate to somebody else. And I talk about this a lot with different people that ask for help, and especially in this conversation. It's like, well, have you talked to them? Have you physically said, these are my goals. This is what I want to do. This is why it's important to me. And right now, you may not be aware of it, but you're harming my progress because of X, Y, and Z. And unless you actually put somebody to be aware of that, you can't necessarily blame them for something that they may not understand. And so, like, that's
all right.
always...
So they do it again, right? It's a friend. In this situation, it's a friend. They do it again. What are you doing?
Oh, 100%. Like, after I've had the conversation, and I have, like, I don't necessarily say 3-strike rule, 2-strike rule. I don't have a strike rule.
Yeah.
But I would be very blunt, and like, I'd be like, hey, we had this conversation. This is why I'm doing. This is why I'm doing it. For example, we'll say one that's for me. I don't drink a lot. I just don't drink a lot of alcohol. I'll still go out. I'll go to the bars. I will do these things, but I don't drink very much. And so I'll say, okay, I'll go to the bars. Yeah, I'll go. And I'll have a water or something, and I'll be with the boy. I'll dance. I'll have a fun time. You push me to drink, we're going to have issues.
Right.
And now if I'm gloomy in the corner and I'm sucking the energy down, I get you. But nothing's changed other than the fact that I'm not drunk with you.
Right.
And if you can't handle that, then I'd be like, I'm not going to go out to the bar at all with you, man. Like I'm out there. I'm having a fun time. We're being boys. Like we're shooting the shit. Don't tell me I have to be drunk in order to do this. And I've had those conversations.
All right, so now let's flip that on its head.
Yep.
It's family now. It's grandma, it's grandpa, it's your uncle, it's your mom, it's your dad.
That's a hard one. I'll say one near and dear to me. I mean,
because David's family loves each other.
Yeah. So, well, I mean, we'll put it this way. We're like, how do I say it? So I have an uncle who's a diabetic, and I remember I was in the middle of this was very much in the keto phase of my life, in the in low carb and fasting phase, and I was already down all the weight. This was just like two things I've been doing, and my aunt was on her deathbed, and we're at the hospital. And they put this whole food thing together in one of the rooms, and my uncle's like, "Hey, do you want something to eat?" And I'm like, "Nah, I'm good. I'm in the middle of a 3-day fast. I'm fine. No big deal." He's like, 3-day. He starts giving me this like look like I'm a psychopath, and I'm like, "Oh no, hey, you do you. I'm just in the middle of a I'm 3 days into a 5-day water fast. Like, hey, I'm good, thank you." And he doubled down like 2 or 3 times, and I didn't do it because again I'm trying to be respectful here. But after he kind of gave me a couple snark remarks, in my head I'm going, "You're the type 2 diabetic. I reversed my diabetes. Don't you dare tell me what I should or shouldn't be doing."
Absolutely.
And so like I didn't say that because obviously it was not the time or place for that conversation. But in my head, I mean, there's definitely those situations that come up, and I was already down 200 pounds and 4 years into my transformation, and those little snarky comments can come up where instead of just the person going, "Hey, okay, cool," and just letting it go, people double down. And so personally, I will. It's a balance. I am a huge believer in time and a place. I'll have a conversation with anybody anytime or at a time, but I also am like, okay, this is not the time for that conversation.
Absolutely.
And so that's one. I mean, I've had enough family get-togethers over the years where we have this big old dessert room, and I'll just keep my distance. And like cousins and uncles and stuff will be like, "Hey, you're not gonna get dessert?" I'm like, "Nah, I'm good." And they're like, "Well, you're doing so great." I kind of just deflect. And I'll be honest, for me, I'm not that close to my family at this point when it comes to aunts and uncles. Like, we're not hanging out every other weekend.
Right.
So it doesn't come up that much. So when it does, I just pivot. Like I just pivot. Like I just don't let it take. That's my uncle. Like, it could be a homeless person on the side of the street. I just like when it comes to the value of health, his opinion doesn't really matter much for me.
All right, so now I'm going to ask Levi, who comes from a real American family that everyone hates each other like mine, and I'm going to say, Levi, grandma, grandpa, dad, mom, and uncle, they coming at you. They ain't vibing with what you're doing right now. What's the conversation looking like?
So for me, like when it was my mom. She was we come from swollen folks, so like. When I didn't eat, she's like, "What's wrong? What's wrong? You all right? You sick? What's wrong? You need to eat. You need to do this. You need to do that." And I'm like, "I'm not doing it." "Well, you can have a little something." "I'm not doing it."
Yeah.
And then she would go like, "Look, boy, you're looking too skinny." And I said, "Well, I'm not fucking doing it." And like, and that's like what the conversation really would turn into. It would turn, and then and she would push, and I would just leave. And then she would call me, and I'd be like, "Mom, I love you, but I'm doing what I got to do," and I'm extremely blunt with the fact that I'll be like, "Look, I didn't want to tell her like, hey, look, I had a heart attack. You know what I mean? I didn't tell her until everything was all done, because like she would have my mom was like, it would have been like fucking like a Tyler Perry fucking episode in my house if that shit would have fucking happened, because she would have lost her shit. So like, I was like, I gotta do what I gotta do, and I was like, "Mom, if you trust me, just trust me. Just trust me. I gotta do what I gotta do. Like, if you down for me, then I need you to be down for me. That doesn't mean like just because I'm not doing it your way or what you think is quote unquote right. Like, you know what I mean?" And I said, "No offense, Mom, I'm not gonna take health advice from somebody that's 370 pounds herself. You know what I
Amen.
mean? Like, I'm just gonna be real with you. Like, I just can't. If you like, all right, boy, do what you gotta do. You know,
Hmm.
I mean, I've had it where I've had people that are close to me put food under my nose and say, "Do you want it? Do you want to eat it? Does it taste? You know, this tastes good." Always try to get you to eat. You know what I mean?
Right.
So like, it's because, and it's again, it's not because of the fact that they don't believe you can. Well, partly it is, but it's like they don't want you to change because they're comfortable with who you are as a person right now. They like who you are now. People don't like change. So when you come
Hmm.
into somebody's life different, it's a whole different person. Like I get this all the time. Like I'm gonna have my 20-year high school reunion soon. I look nothing like I did in high school. People don't even know who I am. They have no idea what I look like. They don't even know who I am. Like I posted online a picture, and someone from high school was like, "Did you used to know this picture?" I was like, "Yeah." He's like, "What do you look like?" And I had to go like this and blow my face up for them to realize who I was because they don't know who I am. They don't know me in this skin. They just know me as when I was in high school, I was a fat kid that was athletic. Then I was a fat kid. Then I was a fat, funny kid. And then I was a fat kid with the family. And now I'm the quote unquote jack guy of the house. And like I'm the jack guy of the family. Now I'm the health nut. Now like
Hmm.
I eat I bring my food everywhere. You know?
Right.
And that was another thing. Like, oh, do you want something to eat? No, I'm good. I got my bag. You know,
I got
like
my own.
I bring my food everywhere. Like, you know, like if I go to the movie theater, I bring my food. If I go to work, I bring my food. If I go to my mom's house, I bring my food. You know what I mean? I go see my cousin, I bring my food. There's like they don't have to worry about it. Like they'll like it's I'm so into the routine of who I am that it's unwavering for me when somebody doubts me.
Right.
It was like it used to throw me for a loop, and I would get so pissed off. I'd be like, I'm gonna go to the gym because I'm gonna go to the gym at least do a treadmill, do something to get my mind off of it. I'll go for a walk. You know what I mean? Do something to get my mind off of it. Because if I took and was bettering myself in that moment of like an anxious moment, I would be all right. You know, because you want their support, you're longing for it. You really are. You really are longing for it within a certain point because of the fact that you want them to be happy for you. You know what
Right.
I mean? You want them
Hmm.
to accept you for who you are because now you're peeling back the weight, but you're also peeling back the shell that you put on your body of like, I am in this mode. No, this is the person who I want to be.
Right.
Because a lot of the time when you're big, and then this is what comes into the friend dynamic is you almost feel like, oh, it's a privilege that they accepted you as a friend because of how you look, right? And that you're in this role. And now you're in a different role.
Hmm.
You're in a different spot.
Right.
So now you can see yourself in a different light, but then it's like, hey, our friendship is equal. You're not taking pity on me like it's a privilege that I'm your friend. We're both friends together. You chose to be with me, I'm choosing to be with you. You know,
Yeah.
the same thing with a relationship. That's why a lot of times relationships they get messed up when somebody loses weight and when somebody else doesn't lose weight because you think that would be your biggest support. Sometimes that turns out to be your biggest enemy or your biggest non-supporter because they really don't want you to change. You know, so that happens a lot too.
Absolutely.
So, John,
Absolutely.
what's it been for you?
I mean, for me, it's been a lot of everything. Like I said in the beginning of the podcast, you know, I cut off groups of friends that I realized I was just eating partners with. And then I've had arguments, you know, like Levi just said with my own parents. Like my dad all the time to this day will be like, well, why don't you just eat that? You're doing so well. You're doing really good. Why don't you just have just a little bit? And I'm just like, because that's not what I'm doing. And like, if it's a problem for you, then you need to look in the mirror and find out why it's a problem for you. But again, like, I'm not going to take health advice from someone who's a type 2 diabetic. Like, my dad's a type 2 diabetic. Like, I'm not, you don't know what you're talking about. You know what I mean? Like, when you try to, first of all, again, I'm from a stubborn ass Italian family. You know what I mean? And they don't realize what a carb is. You know what I mean? Like, and why I wasn't eating carbs for so long. And they don't know like what protein does for your diet or like the difference between, yes, you had a fried chicken sandwich from, Wendy's, and yes, that chicken is a protein, but because it's deep fried and put on a bun with mayonnaise and everything else, like it's not healthy. You know what I mean? Like they would look at me and be like, "Oh yeah, we're gonna go get Chick-fil-A. Do you want a chicken sandwich? Like that's protein." No, I don't want a fucking chicken sandwich from fucking Chick-fil-A. Like that's not where my health goals are at. And I would get into heated arguments with them a lot. Like, oh, I don't know. Like when I did my bodybuilding prep, I was like 2 or 3 weeks into my bodybuilding prep, and my family had gone to Atlantic City to go see a comedian, and I brought my food with me, and they were going to, really good dinners, and I enjoyed one dinner on that trip. I let myself enjoy one steak on that whole trip, but like I would be in the casino with a fucking Tupperware eating my fucking meal. I was in the car eating cold chicken on the way to Atlantic City with mustard and hot sauce, and they're all looking at me like I'm fucking crazy. Like I'm the crazy one. No, you're the fucking crazy one. Like you should get a hold of your life. Like how are you going to look at me, the guy, and the only person in our family who has ever done this and did it successfully, and tell me that I'm fucking nuts, but yet as soon as one of your friends has a health question, you come to me and you tell me to give them diet advice. Like, hello, McFly, is anyone home? Like, what the fuck are you talking about?
I think that's fascinating. Now, I can't remember where I got this from, but I think it hits really well, especially when it comes to family. Love your family, choose your peers.
Yes.
And who are peers? Peers are who you allow influence your decision making. And like, guess what? At the end of the day, you can't choose your family. And so your family could be full of drug addict, asshole alcoholics that don't know how to keep a job. And you got to love them regardless, because that's just the right thing to do. Loving someone and letting them influence you through what you consider to be your peer are two completely different things. And so my favorite way to kind of create that gap is love your family, choose your peers. And who are your peers? Peers are people that are on the same aspiring goals as you. And personally, when it comes to start questioning ties and stuff, no one's perfect. I think that's super important to know when we have this conversation, where as someone has great health, they got their health figured out, their finances suck.
Yeah.
You know what? Their finances are great and their health is great. The relationships blow. They suck at keeping a relationship. You know what? They may have this, and so I think it's super important to also, I compartmentalize life. John and I have had this conversation before, when it comes to ALG and where I see it going when it comes to long-term accountability. I break life into 6 areas. So physical, mental, spiritual, relationships, community, and money. And no one has it all figured out. There's very few people that have it all figured out. And that's okay. And so when you're creating peership, you can be you know what? If my buddy John checks me on my relationships, I'm going to listen. Because this man's got relationship shit figured out. And I'm gonna but he says one thing about how I'm treating my food, and the man's 380 pounds better not fucking say shit to me about food.
Right, exactly.
And so I think it's super important to know too, when you're thinking about peership, it's okay to say you know what? In this area, this person has the results. They're consistent at it. I'm gonna take that with what it is. But I'm also my aunt Susie, who can't keep a job and who's never made more than 2 pennies her entire life, tells me starting a business is stupid. I'm gonna be you know what, Aunt Susie,
go fuck yourself.
I love you. And that's okay too. Trying to find that family to peership is a super big gap, because I'm blessed where that was closer than most. Where a lot of people, that gap is fucking massive.
Yeah. Well, I also feel just to kind of go off of what you just said, I think in any relationship, whether it be a romantic relationship, whether it be a friendship, mentorship, whatever, that person should complete a certain part of you that you lack. And I think that's what makes a friendship or a relationship or anything stronger. Because I know what I'm good at. I know what I bring to the table. You know what I mean? I know for a fact what I bring to the table. And I keep certain people around me.
Is it cannolis?
Yes, it's always cannolis or Shriedo. But I know what I bring to the table, and I know what the people that I bring around me bring to the table, and that's why they sit at my table. You know what I mean? Because, yes, I may not be super smart when it comes to saving money or investing or stuff like that, but I have a buddy who is one of the top real estate agents in Pennsylvania who, if I have a question, he's going to answer that question and he's going to point me in the right direction of where I need to go. You follow what I'm saying? Like, I may not to this day be the smartest person when it comes to being in a gym. It happens, man. But I have Steve, who I'll turn around and say, hey, we're training tonight. It is what it is. We're going to have a pull day. And guess what? I have the best workout of my fucking life. Like, you don't have to have all the answers, but you should have some of the playing cards.
Yep.
Yeah.
And you got to know that going with that, looking at the deck and when you're building this friendship and you're building that community, you're high as a fucking kite if you think every one of your friends is going to have everything figured out.
Yeah.
And so, like, let's be real here. So, again, I think this goes full circle into having the conversation of cutting ties and all this kind of stuff, because there are people out there, when you get into the personal development world and, like, self-help, there's a lot of people out there that act like, well, if you're not fucking perfect, get the fuck out of my life. It's like that ego of personal development.
Believe me, brother, if I was perfect, I wouldn't be in your life.
And so let's be honest here. Be honest of what this of building a community is about. And so perfection, just like everything in life, is a myth. I think we can all agree. Being able to set standards, expectations, and ground rules of, like, hey, if you're not willing to like respect me in this position, then I'm going to have to ask you not to be in my life as much. But again, I think there's a lot of people out there that, like, create this delusion where, I mean, I've seen it in even the ALG community where people will whine that their family doesn't, like, holler and hooray every 2 pounds they lose. And it's like, that's not their job.
Yeah.
Like, now their job, like, don't get me wrong. I mean, I don't want them derailing you, but if you think that all of your success comes to some other person being your fucking cheerleader and twirling the baton,
It doesn't.
It doesn't work that way. And you're using that currently right now as your excuse.
Right, it's a crutch.
It's a crutch because you're like, oh, well, if I just had a better family, if I just had better friends, they would just all be sunshine and fucking rainbows.
Absolutely.
Hate to break it to you. No, it won't.
No. I mean, I said it on last week's episode. You know, the first time my dad ever told me he was proud of me was when I competed. And it took 5 years. Lost 300 pounds, was on TV multiple times, have a great Instagram page going, like, have social media presence. He don't give a fuck about that. But it took something that I didn't expect, for him to turn around and be like, I'm really fucking proud of you. And that was probably the first and probably the last time I'm ever going to hear it. But did it feel good? Absolutely. But then, like, you take my mom, for example. You know, me and my mom had a horrible relationship. Me growing up, I didn't speak to my mom for almost 7 years, you know? And now it's like, if I do anything, my mom texts me, I'm so proud of you. You know what I mean? Like, I can't believe, like, what you're doing. I came home from Portland the other day. She wrote me, like, a fucking essay about how important, like, how proud she was and, like, just all this stuff. And it's like, when she does that, I'm just like, hey, Mom, like, I didn't really do anything. Like, I appreciate the kudos, but, like, I don't need it. Like, I appreciate it, but it is what it is. So, like, you're going to get certain things from certain people, and sometimes it's not going to be what you expect from them. But I think totally cutting people off at the drop of a hat is not always the answer. Like David said before, time and place for everything. But again, if someone is making you super uncomfortable because of their actions towards what you're doing and it's bringing you down, then by all means, you need to distance yourself from that person. And yeah.
No, 100%. I 1,000,000% agree. So, John, wrapping this bad boy up, what are your final thoughts?
My final thoughts are, like Levi said before, 4 pennies. I mean, 4 pennies, listen to me. Wow, again, like, what is wrong with me? 4 quarters rather than 100 pennies. Figure out your circle. figure out the people that are going to bring you further in life rather than keep you down. But also remember that everyone's in your life for a reason, and sometimes just cutting them out to cut them out isn't the answer.
I agree. I 100% agree. And then big thing for me is, I think it goes 4 quarters. That analogy, I get the idea of you don't cut people out, you build better relationships.
Absolutely.
Find people that fill the void better. But also be the first one. There's going to be a lot of people listening to this that are like, oh, yes, cutting ties and all that comes along with that. And like, yes, tell me the ways I need to blow off all my friends because they're fucking my life up. And I'm going to tell you, it's your fucking fault.
Yeah.
It's still your fucking fault.
Mm-hmm.
And there's power in that. There's power knowing that you're in control of your life, and no matter who's in it, who's not in it, you still decide what goes in your mouth, how you use your body, the conversation you have with yourself on a day-to-day basis. Yes, this cutting ties may be something you need to consider. Remember, it'll still never be the singular reason why your life is either good or bad.
Absolutely. And also, like, even when you cut ties and you end relationships, sometimes those relationships have a funny way of coming back into your life. And sometimes it is a lot for the better. But I also feel like, you know, just to put a cap on this, you need to figure out who you are way before you figure out who your friends are. You know, and if you haven't really figured out who you are yet on your journey, you're going to have a really tough time figuring out who needs to be with you for the long haul and who is here temporarily.
No, 100%. So, wrap this bad boy up, John.
All right, guys. You know what it is. There's going to be all the links that you need to click at the bottom of this video. This is going to be wherever podcasts are available. We do have a new sponsor, though, and I forgot to mention them at the top of the show. Today's show is sponsored by Wild Chips. Wild Chicken Protein Chips. They're actually really good. I'm actually going to send you guys some once I get them. Use promo code The Gains in Between. That's The Gains with a Z in between, and save some money. They are... When I tell you, brother, that these shits are so good...
I mean, the fact they're made out of chicken means it's protein, and I love my protein.
That's all it is. It's just chicken.
I like it.
Dude, they have a chicken and waffles one. It tastes like Cinnamon Toast Crunch.
Talk dirty to me.
Yeah, brother. Yeah. I'm going to send you guys once I get some in.
I had this
conversation to the boys.
I'm a sweets guy. It still's my downfall. Like, everyone's like, oh, it's a savories for me. I fucking love sweets.
Became more of a... I hate sweets. Like, I always hated sweets. I became more of a sweets guy now that I lost weight.
Oh,
no,
God.
See, that'll never, ever be me. Ever. Ever.
I could literally eat my weight in pancakes.
Yeah.
I can't do that.
I went out for breakfast with Dalton and Rob and Dez and Bree when I was in Portland, and like there was like some really good looking French toast, but I had a breakfast burrito. You know what I mean? Like, I'll never be like the one to be like, yes, I will have a chocolate chip waffle and some of your finest French toast. No, Daddy. I don't want that. Yes. All right, we went off on a tangent, but Levi, welcome back. Anyway, you know where to find us. JF Sturdy, fit_D-Rock, Fluffy to Fit 86.
85.
85. All right, I'm going to get it. Follow us at the Accountable Life Group. Like, share, subscribe. Tell a friend to tell a friend. Stay beautiful, stay sexy, stay accountable.
Toodles.